What is up, everybody? Welcome. Happy Easter. Welcome back. I'm going to welcome myself back to my own show. Welcome back to Truth and Transparency. So good to be back. Special shout out there to MAGA. I thought it would still be up here. Where is it? Maybe it's on the other stream. Thank you there, Douglas. Gifted 5 Truth and Transparency memberships this past Friday when the live was scheduled to happen, and I pushed it back. I think it was 80 or 100 memberships. Is she in chat here tonight? If she is, I was trying to scroll through. If you receive a membership, it will let you know in your email, as well as like you'll turn green. And so, but again, welcome all. Welcome all. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. I had a blast. So cheers. Saw Messi play in person, bucket list. It's pretty cool. We should have won though. Crew should have won. But yeah, Hippler made himself known on Friday, and he did basically all of his rulings on the motion in limine. So we're going to talk about it. I know mainstream media, they want to talk about it. But let's just see what's good for the truth, how to get the truth out. So again, what is up? What you guys are looking at on the screen here is what Hippler did. This is an order memorializing oral rulings on motions in limine. So anything that he ruled at the proceeding, this is a 17-page document. Again, it was filed on April the 18th, 2025. So, and we are talking about, so he introduces this document by saying that before the court are several motions in limine filed by both the defendant and the state. Oral argument on motions, they were held on April 9th, 2025. On several motions, the court rendered oral rulings from the bench. This order serves to memorialize those oral rulings, together with the findings the court made during the hearing. So it's important to note that the standard here is that evidence is relevant if it has, quote unquote, any tendency to make the existence of any fact that is of consequence to the determination of the action more probable or less probable than it would be without the evidence. So all relevant evidence is admissible, except as otherwise provided by these rules or by other rules applicable in the court of this state. Although relevant evidence may be excluded, if its probative value is substantially outweighed by the danger of unfair prejudice, confusion of the issues, or misleading the jury, or by considerations of undue delay, waste of time, or needless presentation of cumulative evidence. So the question of whether evidence is relevant is reviewed de novo, while the decision to admit evidence, relevant evidence that is reviewed for an abuse of discretion. So number one, this is going to be a quick one, inflammatory evidence. So how Judge Hippler ruled on this was that the court finds this unnecessary and therefore denies the motion. So however, this was a very particular horrific murder, and there will be exceptionally graphic depictions of the victims and crime scene. Prior to seeking the admission of this evidence, the state is required to provide copies to the defendant. If defendant believes the evidence is cumulative, unnecessary, or otherwise prejudicial, he can seek to take that matter up outside the presence of the jury. So basically, once they go ahead and exchange these exhibits, we're going to know a lot more on how Ann Taylor's going to feel about what it is that they want to present. Remember how many pictures were taken. So popping that back up. All right. We know about the term of murder. We're not going to be seeing that. So this is unnecessary because the state acknowledges it would be improper to refer to the defendant as a murderer. Okay. C is defendant's motion limiting number 4, which is the use of the term psychopath or sociopath. Again, that will not be used. State's motion limiting improper death penalty comments. Again, the court is unwilling to enter an order requiring defense counsel to act professionally and comply with existing rules, just as we're not going to do that for the state. So act accordingly. Next up is the defendant's motion limiting number 8, the unnoticed 404B evidence. So this is where the defendant was trying to exclude 404B evidence that has not already been noticed by the state. So basically what it is that in order for the state to want to use anything that would be considered, that would present evidence of defendants, like the graduate paper regarding how to conduct a crime scene investigation and his Amazon purchases record, both of which defendant contends are subject to IRE 404B. So speaking of these two, the defendant takes the position that other acts encompasses any other acts of any nature other than the crime at issue. The rule is not so broad. Its purpose is to govern the use of character evidence. It forbids the use of evidence to, quote unquote, to show a defendant's criminal propensity. So if the evidence does not bear upon the defendant's character, it is not subject to 404B. So the defendant's Amazon purchases and his graduate paper discussing proper crime scene investigation techniques do not, standing alone, bear on his character or suggest he has a propensity to commit crimes, including those charged. Now, there is a footnote here. I want to talk about that. Even if this evidence could qualify as character evidence, which it does not, defendant has notice of the state's intent to rely on it. So Hippler says that this does not qualify as character evidence. Further, the court is unwilling at this point to preclude the state from filing a 404B notice in the future if it determines its evidence is encompassed by the rule. There are still 4 months until trial begins, well within the reasonably in advance of trial time frame required by the rule. The state acknowledges its notice obligations, and so if they want to bring something up, they can. All right. Now, Lana finally got her ruling that she wanted, which was, I've been saying that we have to wait. We have to wait until we hear if the IGG is going to be in or not. We found out. Finally, for sure. I was waiting for this ruling because Hippler likes to be like mouthy. Like, how do I want to say it? Like, he speaks too much. Like, I was going through past cases in the times for that people are putting in motion limines, and I've just never seen this in all the cases that I've went out of my way to look up other cases. What I mean by that is, like, grant or deny. Like, he's just a chatty. There's my Detective Mowry. How we doing, handsome? So here, what I mean by that is, here we go. Defendant's motion limine is his improper expert testimony, so middleman. And then this is to exclude IGG evidence and its investigative genetic genealogy. So we have the defendants and the states, and then the improper expert testimony. He kind of just grouped in as one because this has to do with, in his opinion, all of the same thing. Both parties moved to exclude evidence of law enforcement's investigative genetic genealogy testing in this case, but for entirely different reasons. Given the parties' agreement to not present any IGG evidence, keyword there is any, in my opinion, any. That's a big, it's any IGG evidence. Those reasons need not be discussed given the bottom line. Ashley Jennings, the bottom line is the bottom line agreement, and the court grants the motions. Bottom line, man. The state has indicated it will present evidence through Detective Brett Payne that defendant's name was revealed to law enforcement through a quote-unquote a tip. To avoid issues at trial, the court advises the parties to arrive at a mutually agreeable narrative. Mutually agreeable narrative about how the tip came about. You guys, how can you mutually agree on a narrative that does not exist? So it's very simple. This is what's going to happen. The defense is going to tell the state that they are going to go with the narrative that they put in the probable cause affidavit. That's what you're going with, right? They're not, but can you believe that he put this in writing? Like, the parties to arrive at a mutually agreeable narrative about how the tip came about. And I was like, okay, let's see what else we got here. Okay, let's check out that footer. Okay. So 3, if agreement cannot be reached, the parties are to submit to the court their proposed narratives prior to trial, and the court will decide how it be presented. Well, when? I cannot believe that he didn't put a date on this. Like, we need to know now, because it's going to matter in how we present a case. Just if you were like the defense, if you were the state, it doesn't matter. Like, we need to know now when this date is. Okay. So again, if agreement cannot be reached, the parties are to submit to the court their proposal narratives prior to trial, and the court will decide how it will be presented. Now, again, if you're Ann Taylor, it's very simple. You write an email and you say, we believe that you should just be going with the probable cause affidavit, right? Because that's the only possible narrative that remotely, like, I mean, why wouldn't you? And then how is Hippler not going to, once the defense says you're going to go with the probable cause affidavit narrative, how is Hippler going to possibly not say that that's, yeah, we're not going to go with that. We're going to go with some lie. So that's the argument. The argument is that you go with your probable cause narrative, right? How about we don't go with any narrative and you present the truth? This is okay. So the parties are also directed to jointly craft a jury instruction advising the jurors to not concern themselves with the source or the nature of the tip. What? You guys, how can Ann Taylor or any defense possibly poke at the investigation if this is going to be some weird ass shit? Like, you can't, right? I'm over here just like, how does Ann Taylor poke at the investigation if that we're going to make up now this investigation and Brian Kober that came about, you know? So bottom line is that Ann Taylor cannot budge off of, listen, you need to go with the probable cause affidavit. That's like your only saving grace to say that to the state. And the state should be like, that's fine, right? Because the thing should be is how can the state argue that is my question. Is the state going to then write a motion and say, we can't do that because it was all a lie? We can't do that. We have to have, we can't come to an agreement. Judge Hippler, will you just, help us craft this? right? Unbelievable, right? So I'm just like, wow. This is like, wee. So, hey, jurors, don't worry about it. Now, next up is, oh, where was improper expert testimony Middleman talked about? Yeah, he wasn't, just so we're clear. Defendant's motion limine number 13. Despite the state's concession here, the court is concerned with the breadth of defendant's motion. He is not only seeking to preclude the state from referencing his ASD diagnosis as an aggravator, but any symptom of his ASD. The court foresees an issue potentially arising at trial whereby the state makes reference to an action taken by a defendant the defendant contends is a symptom of his ASD. So that evidence is not currently before the court. Thus, at this point, the court will preclude the state from arguing or presenting evidence of defendant's ASD diagnosis as an aggravator, but it is not in a position to rule on whether any particular evidence must be excluded on grounds that it evidence is a symptom of defendant's ASD. So therefore, granted in part only. Yeah, and there's going to be a problem there. I think Hippler's going to be going to make sure there's not a problem there. Now, alternative perpetrator evidence. The state seeks an order prohibiting defendant from offering alternate perpetrator evidence without first making a showing that such evidence is relevant and admissible. So these rules govern the standard of admissibility for alternate perpetrator. Mere inferences that another person could have committed the crime will most likely not be relevant, and if relevant, will still be subject to the limitation provisions. Defendant acknowledged, his burden here, but argues the state's motion is premature. According to the defendant, this case is full of alternate perpetrators, and he intends to produce offers of proof as to alternate perpetrators. While the defendant is correct that such offers of proof can be made at trial, yes, you can, this case is not well suited to wait until the time of trial to do so, particularly if defendant intends to submit multiple offers of proof. Laying foundation for the admission of the evidence will likely take a significant amount of time. Now, I think Hippler is foreshadowing something for us here, and I'm going to tell you what I think that is. Alternate perpetrators, in my opinion, it's based on your decisions to go a certain way in your investigation and not go this way. If I'm okay, hey, we're going this way and not this way when we're doing things at the beginning of an investigation, what we deem as pertinent versus what's not pertinent. Those decisions ultimately, like, if you would have went and got more information about, let's say, road B, when you were at the fork between A and B, if you would have went and got more information, then you could have found out, all these other things from road B, but you guys didn't go that route. So I think that Hippler sees that as potentially happening because they're going to go ham at this, like, okay, if the time of the crime is not the time that they're saying, okay, so basically you put all your eggs in the basket of Bethany and Dylan for that time of the crime. But if you actually would have done these things and looked at the victim's phones and not listened to them, all right, and you look at the victim's phones and at the surviving roommates, as well as you have blood evidence, it should have taken you a different route because you could have moved the time of the crime, right? And then who's in that area then and falling at that time that would have been, because they did the towers from 3 to 5 in that area. So I foresee that taking a long time because did you rule people out based on the time of the crime? I can't wait to find out why they were ruling people out. And if it's because the DNA did not match the sheath, it'll be interesting to hear that. You know, what was the criteria to rule people out, and when did you believe the roommates? When did you believe the roommates? When did you ask the forensic people to go through the surviving roommates' phones? And what information were you seeking from their phones, and how early on? Okay. Because let's put it to you this way. When I believe that there's alternate perpetrators in the term of, or in the sense of, at different times, this group of people could have committed the crime. Okay. But then also based on your guys's putting all your eggs in Bethany and Dylan's basket, there's alternate perpetrators during that time. Okay. And so everything is heavily going to fall on the fact that you believe the two surviving roommates. Okay. But then you found their phones and you saw they were deleting things, and you found their phones and they weren't sleeping. You know, are they going to ask those type of questions? Of course they are. Did you, when you found out that they were lying, you didn't care? There's blood on gloves outside the house. That wasn't important. How did you not find that? I mean, I just can't wait for these. I think I already know the answers, but I'm curious. Because every good investigator would have been like, wait, how did Dylan not die? How did Dylan not die? If she was within 3 feet of the killer, how does Dylan not die? Right? He just didn't see her. Be interesting. Like, were you guys questioning that? So Hippler saying, like, laying foundation for the admission of the evidence will likely take a significant amount of time. After all, defendant cannot merely show another person could have committed the crime. Rather, there must be evidence, direct or circumstantial. And see, I'm so glad that he wrote that word circumstantial, because I think we have both here. Blood isn't circumstantial. DNA isn't circumstantial, even though it could be, but depending on what we're talking about here, I think blood's different than touch from skin cells, obviously. So how could blood not be important to you? Also, how would these investigators, how would these investigators determine that blood on gloves and then the blood on the railing, when did they know about it? And how would they be the ones to determine when that blood was left? Who determined to not put those profiles in CODIS? Or if they were put into CODIS, when? How did they determine that it was only one person versus 2 or 3? You know, like this type of stuff. Because if they would then talk to an ME, investigators usually talk to MEs and they give information back and forth. And if an ME is saying, man, this could be multiple weapons, so you could be looking at multiple perpetrators. So you guys heard that, and then what'd you do? Curious. But point of the story here is that I already see Hippler, knowing that there's hella issues with this investigation, that Ann Taylor and her team have, when they say there's multiple perpetrators here, I believe that number one thing to me is saying that it's the time of the crime. It's, well, if the crime happened at this time, if the crime happened at this time, if the crime happened at this time, this is multiple people, right? Due to the time and due to who was around. And then due to the connection, like the links, then you're going to then be linking if these people have, hey, for Ethan, let's say Ethan or Xana got in a huge fight that night. Okay, so after they got in a huge big fight, then you have these other witnesses that heard and saw these kids saying, dude, I'm going over there to beat the fuck out of them. And then they're murdered that night. Okay. And then let's say Bethany or Dylan, in one of their interviews said that so-and-so came over. Just like something like that. Now, does that create a nexus? I mean, I would think you saying that you need to, if you're going to go over and beat somebody's ass and they wind up fucking dead. Okay. So, linking the third person to the actual perpetrator of the crime. I think blood would. Now, depending on if here, what has the defense done with the unknown profiles? Was the defense able to possibly figure out who these people were? I don't know. Linking the third, to avoid undue delay at the trial, defendant must present the offers of proof no later than May 14th. There you go. May 14th, 2025. May 14th, 2025. How come there's a deadline on this? How come there's a deadline on this? But there's not a deadline on when that IgG had to be sorted out. That right there, that ruling right there is crushing to the defense, if you want my opinion. May 14th. But there's no deadline for us to have to determine how this tip is going to be presented. It has to be the same type of deadline. Because it matters on how you're going to, both sides. It matters on the state and for the defense on how you're going to present or defend your case. So it's just wild to me that they threw up that date right there. So the court will reserve ruling on the motion. Let's see what the footer says here, though. 5, the scope of the preclusive effect of this ruling includes suggesting that specific individuals looked at and cleared by law enforcement are alternative perpetrators without first complying with a showing required by this order. So again, right there, the scope of the preclusive effect of this ruling includes suggesting that specific individuals looked at and cleared by law enforcement are alternative perpetrators without first complying with a showing required by this order. And that's going to be easy to do. I'm not going to lie like that. And that's exactly what the state or the defense is talking about. They're talking about some of those type of people. So basically, Hippler announces in this order, he announces that 100% there were suspects that law enforcement had on their radar and that they then cleared them. So again, hello to everybody in chat. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. So defendant's motion in limine for the statistical analysis. So the defendant moves in limine to exclude any misleading comments about the meaning of a likely ratio for DNA purposes. Specifically, defendant seeks to avoid attempts to define likelihood ratio through a comparison to the world population. The state agrees that this type of comparison is inappropriate. The court grants defendant's motion insofar as it applies to the question asked by the prosecutor at the grand jury proceedings, which both sides agree was not proper. However, the court will not dictate how the question is to be asked at trial. If defendant believes, they can just raise their objection then. That footer here is defendant's motion is directed towards the prosecutor's questioning of lab analysis at the grand jury. We remember this. There, the analysis testified that her DNA testing showed the profile developed from the knife sheath was 5.37 octillion times more likely to be seen if defendant was the source than if an unrelated individual randomly selected from the general population is the source. In an attempt to clarify this result, the prosecutor asked whether this meant that if there were 1.37 octillion people, that it would be that Brian Kober is one out of that many octillion. The lab analysis explained why this comparison is not a proper way to view a likely ratio. This is the part that was redacted out, by the way. And so we get to see what was redacted. Here it is. This is unredacted in the footer from the stuff that you guys have seen in motions. They can say the DNA in the sheath is inconclusive. That's what somebody asked in chat or wrote in chat. The next thing is the defendant's motion limiting about the inconclusive data. So defendant moves in limiting expert testimony about the Idaho State Police Forensics Lab statistical analysis of a swab taken from the fingernail clippings of Madison Mogan. The testing revealed a likely ratio in the inclusive range as to whether defendant was potentially a contributor to the DNA mixture. During her grand jury testimony, the lab analysis Jade Miller testified that inconclusive meant she was unable to say one way or another, or not defendant is included in the mixture. Defendant argues that this is misleading language in that it allows for an inference that defendant might be included, which he asserts is inaccurate. The state indicates it will not offer the results of Q13.1 as inculpatory evidence, which defendant agrees renders his motion moot. However, I don't remember that conversation. However, if the state changes course with regard to the evidence, it must first raise the matter with the court outside the presence of the jury, so the anticipated testimony regarding the meaning of inconclusive can be discussed. At this time, however, the motion is denied as moot. So basically, the state isn't going to be using it, but if they try to, we're going to have issues, and that's going to come up outside the presence of the jury. Will they be at sidebar? Maybe in front of all of us. Who knows? All right, this is a good one. Defendant's motion limiting number 9, excluding Amazon click activity. Well, I know I watched and took hella notes and then discussed this at length with myself or with all of you guys, right? And so I about hit the floor when I saw that Hippler is just adding shit in here, okay? Defendant moves to exclude any evidence of the defendant's Amazon purchase history or click activity on grounds that it is out of context, incomplete, and unfairly prejudicial. Well, for the record, this kind of all goes together. When something is taken out of context and it's incomplete, there is no doubt that it then would be prejudicial. Okay. So for the record, this evidence will be presented by the state through Shane Cox now and Michael Douglas, who will testify simply to what the documentary evidence state. All of which was provided to defendant in discovery. Now, this is where it's like, no, that's not what the defense said. They said they didn't get anything from these people, right? So within this motion, defendant also seeks to exclude testimony by Shane Cox and Michael Douglas on grounds that their expert disclosures were insufficient. Correct. That will be addressed in a separate order regarding defendant's motion to exclude vague and undisclosed expert testimony. Okay. But this was separate. The evidence is highly relevant. Okay. Now, the evidence is highly relevant. So I guess Judge Hippler knows, I'll be honest, I have no idea how Amazon Click works. Do you guys? I've never listened to anybody testify to Amazon Click in my whole entire life of any case. Have you guys? What case has Hippler ever presided over where he knows what Amazon Click is? So, but the evidence is highly relevant. A K-bar knife sheath was found lying next to the body of one of the deceased victims. Like a K-bar knife sheath, a K-bar knife sheath. Okay, well, which one, goddammit? Can somebody please just come out and say, did the one that Kohlberger's account purchase, which one was it? Which one did he purchase? Can we just get it out? Like, is it the same one? So this K-bar knife sheath was found lying next to the body of one of the deceased victims, all of whom were stabbed to death. Defendant's DNA was found on the knife sheath. Records from an Amazon account registered to defendant's name and email show that a purchase of a K-bar knife and sheath was made from the account approximately 8 months prior to the homicides. Okay. Now, I personally believe if you're going to let this in, then it is going to take, and the defense has this right when we talk about how long this is going to take. Do you not think that it would be relevant to ask people when they take the stand? I don't care if you're a cop. I don't care who the fuck you are, to take the stand and ask them if they've ever purchased a K-bar knife. Is it relevant? You're damn right it's relevant in this case. I think it's relevant. Did you ever purchase one from Amazon? But I want to know 8 months prior to the homicides. Well, I think it's relevant to know what was purchased with and around that time. I think it's relevant. Because if it was purchased by itself and not with like going, I don't know, hiking or hunting or what was it? Camping. I would want to know that. Click activity on the same account shows the customer also viewed pages associated with K-bar style knives at the time and in the week following the purchase. So let me make sure we get this right. Click activity on the same account shows the customer also viewed pages associated with K-bar style knives at that time of the purchase and in the week following the purchase. Viewed pages associated with the shipping progress of the knife sheath. You guys, I don't know about you guys, but I stalk my Amazon orders to see where they're at. Like, I do this with, like, I mean, who doesn't? Because for a while there, I swear every news outlet was saying, you guys need to make sure that you get your Amazon orders off the porches. People are coming around and stealing people's, Amazon, like the deliveries. Okay. So back in the day, like I was always stalking my Amazon, like to get it off the damn, to get it off the porch. But to see this, and it was like viewed pages associated with the shipping progress of the knife and sheath. Well, last time I also checked, like, when you click on the orders, it shows you everything that you've ordered. Like, I buy on Amazon like a motherfucker. And so, like, it's an Amazon Christmas, man. It's like, I'm always, I don't know. The product was shipped to Brian Kober at his family address in Pennsylvania. Okay. After the homicides, activity from the same account showed the user navigated pages related to the deletion of account activity, and a week later viewed pages associated with a K-bar knife and sheath. This evidence establishes a significant connection between defendant and a K-bar knife and sheath. Significant connection. You know what's interesting to me is okay. So how do I say this? All right. Let me make this bigger so that it could be seen. All right. All right. So Brian Kober has had this knife and sheath for 8 months. 8 months. That's a long time, okay? 8 months. And there's nothing else on this thing. 8 months. After the homicides, activity from the same account showed the user navigated pages related to the deletion of account activity. What kind of deletion? Like, what are we talking about? Did you guys, so when this came out, did any of you guys go on your Amazon and see how you could delete anything? So for example, if you go, I went onto my Amazon and I was like, okay, what? So I clicked on my Amazon. And I go to what's in my cart. I've had shit in my cart for like fucking weeks. All right. Then I go to my stuff that says save for later, 23 items. All right. Like fucking Ronaldo, Messi, all this crazy shit's in here. And I'm like, but like what's considered a deletion? Like deselect items. Like if I was like, okay, or then I go to here, ask a question. How do I delete activity? How do I delete activity on my account? To delete your activity center data associated with your Amazon account, you can visit the Manage Your Content and Devices page on Amazon's website or contact customer service. This will remove the activity center data from your account, but any usage data stored locally on your device, like web browser history, will remain. So, did you guys hear that? To delete your activity center data associated with your Amazon account, you can visit the Manage Your Content and Devices page on Amazon's website or contact customer service. This will remove the activity center data from your account, but any usage data stored locally on your device, like web browser history, will remain. So, hang tight. Let's go back like this. And after the homicides, activity from the same account showed the user navigated pages related to the deletion of account activity. Navigated pages. The user navigated pages related to the deletion of account activity. After the homicides, activity from the same account showed the user, whoever was using that account, navigated pages related to the deletion of account activity, and a week later, viewed pages associated with a K-bar knife and sheath. So that proves one thing that I wanted to prove. Nobody went in to delete anything. It would have said that they went into the, like I just said, they went to the, in quotes, this user went to the activity center data associated with your Amazon account and visited the Manage Your Content and Devices pages on Amazon's website, whereby they deleted the activity. That's how that would look if that's what they did. Okay? So, just wanted to clarify that. This is not how it would have been wrote if he deleted something. In addition, there is no basis under IRE 403 to exclude the evidence, particularly given how probative it is. Defendant argues it is misleading and prejudicial because it paints it's supposed to be an incomplete picture of the account activity. To this end, defendant provides the declaration of his expert, David Howell, the founder of a firm specializing in digital forensic and digital markups analytics. According to Mr. Howell, far more information must be reviewed in order to attribute specific activity to a specific person or otherwise render an opinion about the user behavior with forensic certainty, including Amazon advertising logos, recommended algorithms, cross-device history, retargeting behavior, account personalization, and device IDs. Defendant is free to challenge this evidence through cross-examination and establish through Mr. Howell why more information is needed to reach the conclusion that defendant made the purchases or clicks. So, through non-experts, Shane Cox and Michael Douglas, they can confuse the jury, and then their expert has to come in and clean it all up. That's how I'm taking this. Because, like, if they're testifying as an expert, the methodology of it matters then. Giving your opinion matters. You cannot give an expert opinion. So basically, I think what Hippler said is that, remember, let's see if he continues to write on it, which is that these guys weren't disclosed as, and not going to be experts. They're just like fact witnesses. However, it is not a basis for exclusion. It's like, if you want to present this through a non-expert, and just say, we downloaded his account and this is what it showed, but we have no idea what it means. There is nothing inherently unfairly prejudicial or misleading about the evidence itself. What? The evidence itself? You don't even know what the evidence is. You would need an expert to explain it, right? And so I guess I think the defense was coming from, and maybe they didn't do a good enough job explaining this, is that the jury should not hear from people that don't know anything about this talking about it. Because then you're shifting the burden onto us to have to fucking now we're actually bringing in an expert. So we have to spend a lot of time to basically point out that Michael Douglas nor Shane Cox are qualified because they don't know what this, like, so the defense is going to have to sit down with this expert and say, this is how you want to ask these questions and see if they know these answers. Someone said, "Man, I click on this." So I thought that, I don't know why we're not talking about this. Maybe it's coming up later, but it will be up to the jury to consider all the evidence, all the evidence. No, you mean the description of, like, and decide whether defendant was the clicker. If the defendant was the clicker, thus the motion is denied. So they can decide if the defendant was the clicker versus what the clicks even mean, right? Do you see how he wrote that? Like, that's not even what that means. Clicks that's not what clicks even is. That's part of it, but it's not all of it. What clicks is, like, there's clicks associated with things and you don't even click on anything. That's how I understood it with my work that I've done in my research, is that Amazon, like, the clicks, it's not even stuff that you click on. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with this. I just clicked on this. I can't believe that they're claiming this criminal mastermind bought the murder weapon on his family Amazon account and then he fucking took his blessed car. Yeah. And then managed to kill these people in such a short amount of time and then managed to do it so quickly that he didn't get a fucking ounce, not a little smidget of any DNA anywhere. So, but Hippler, thus the motion is denied. Now, AT&T timing advance records. Now, this got me I was like, okay, here we go. The state moves in limine to prohibit the defense from making any reference to the absence of AT&T timing advance records related to the defendant's cell phone. Now, note there's that just related to the defendant's cell phone. Notice how it just doesn't say in motherfucking general. So, related to the defendant's cell phone. The state contends it never received such records from AT&T. Well, actually, they said at first that they didn't receive any. Okay. It never received such records from AT&T. In response to its subpoenas, and therefore any statement by defendant that the records could have or should have been provided to defendant should not be allowed, as it mischaracterizes the evidence. It will mislead the jury, waste time, and cause undue delay. In support, the state provides certificates of authenticity from AT&T for each of the two warrants, stating it did not provide timing advance records for this phone number because such records were at that time only available if requested within the 7 days of the specified time frame. Okay. Now, that's what he's saying is coming from the certificate of authenticity. But you guys have to understand, ready for this? Guess what Hippler did not note? Do you guys know the date? Do you guys know the date when they went to go get that COA? I'll be the first to tell you guys that that's really, really important. They went to go get this date on this COA after the Global Legal Demand Center, okay, They went in like 2024. 2024 is when it was signed off on. And so in 2024, when you're talking about this 7 days and they're making that statement, I'd love to know if, oh, I wrote that because it's how we do things now. Okay. Number one, why wouldn't you go get a COA? Like, oh, you're supposed to, you do that like really, really, you can do that right after you get these records. If you got these records in 2022, why isn't your COA, your certificate from 2022? Why isn't it even from like 2000, maybe 23, just like, okay. So the other thing is that we already know this. Cyray has made this clear, and it's going to be clear as fucking dog shit once it comes out that Global Legal Demand is not who provided these records to Nick Balance. Okay. Nick Balance got these records from Boyd Jackson. Okay. Now, defendant, okay, we'll go down to 9 really quick. The homicides occurred on November 13th, 2022. Defendant first became a person of interest on December 19th, 2022. The 2 AT&T warrants were issued on December 23rd, thus TA records for defendant that could have been of any relevance, they said of any relevance, had long been discarded by AT&T and no longer exist. I cannot believe that he fucking had the balls to put this in here. This is not true. I'm putting all my chips on that. That's not true. What's up, T? Criminality. Happy Easter. Okay. So, because he's saying that since Brian Kohlberger was not known until the 19th, if you work 7 days back, you're still not even getting anywhere close to November 13th. And so, therefore, like, there's just no way that these records exist. Okay. And so that's what this footer is about, right? Now, let's go up a little bit. Here we go. Defendant, relying largely on the affidavit of its expert, Cyray, is adamant that the state did receive the documents, which he argues are exculpatory, and is hiding them. Okay. It's like, damn, okay. Defendant points out he has a constitutional right to challenge evidence against him and therefore must be allowed to explore the state's misrepresentation as to the availability of the records. What do you mean availability of the records? Dude, we're challenging the fact that y'all motherfuckers have these records. What do you mean the availability of these records? There's two things we're talking about here, but he only wants to say this, that as to the availability of these records. Like, the defense or Cyray is basically saying that they have them, in my opinion, that's how I read it, and they didn't get them through Global Legal Demand Center. They got them through a special relationship that the FBI has with other areas of AT&T, and Boyd Jackson runs that, okay? And he says that he has seen papers, like literally documents from this case, not from some other case, from this case, because he's the investigator on this case for the defense with this shit. He has gone through the discovery and has found papers associated with the name Boyd Jackson. Boyd Jackson is not part of the Global Legal Demand Center. Okay. And if Boyd Jackson's name is on paperwork that was supplied, and then that's how it was supplied to the state, or, you know, and then the state turns over something and maybe they weren't supposed to turn this over and did not realizing that, oh my God, it was one of the sheets that had Boyd fucking Jackson's name on it. Fuck. Okay. He found them, and it's what it says in the affidavit. So the 6th and 14th Amendment guarantees a criminal defendant a meaningful opportunity to present a complete defense. So he goes over what the trial court may reasonably limit cross-examination that is harassing, confusing, repetitive, or only marginally relevant. The Confrontation Clause guarantees an opportunity for effective cross-examination, not cross-examination that is effective in whatever way, in whatever extent the defendant wishes. So applying these principles here, taking all these things, and he's just citing these little sentences that work for him, okay? Applying these principles here, which is, additionally, a defendant has no right to present irrelevant evidence, and even if evidence is relevant, it may be excluded in certain cases. Like, bitch just basically said, state for self, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to do, inciting state for self. Applying these principles here, defendant will be allowed to voir dire special agent Balance outside the presence of the jury to ask whether he received defendant's TA records covering the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, and the months prior when defendant was believed to have been in the area of 1122 King Road. Now, however, if agent Balance denies, okay, why is he even writing this? However, if agent Balance denies having received the TA records, defendant may not explore the matter further. Are you fucking kidding me? You put that in a public order? So all Balance has to do is deny the accusation. That's enough. No, nothing further. No fucking way. I don't give a fuck if he gets to deny it. Then I can't put a piece of paper in front of him and say, Agent Balance, do you know what this document is? Have you seen this before? Number 2, what if Agent Balance denies it, but Ann Taylor's like, well, I want to present, I'm subpoenaing Boyd Jackson here. And Boyd Jackson gets his happy ass up there, and he says that I gave timing advance records to Agent Balance on whatever date. Okay. Then what happens? What happens? During my case in chief, okay, I bring up Boyd Jackson, and Boyd Jackson says that I gave Nick Balance timing advance records for that number. Because remember, it was outside the presence of the jury. So if I'm not allowed to bring up anything to do with the timing advance records because there's a motion in limine that will be decided upon based off of the state's case in chief, and that means it happens before my case in chief, right? So if the state calls Nick Balance to the stand, right, and before he's called to the stand, we say, well, we're having we're voir diring him, and so that we can get this handled, right? And he just denies it. He denies ever seeing those, let's say. Let's just say, do I think that's going to happen? I don't. I think Nick Balance is going to testify truthfully. I don't think that Nick Balance is going to lie. Okay. But hypothetically speaking, let's just say that he denies it. How would Ann Taylor be able to impeach him? I present to him a piece of paper that has his name on it and in an email from Boyd Jackson. So I would have to get material from Boyd Jackson ahead of time with like an email from Boyd Jackson to Nick Balance and say, hey, here you go. Have you seen this email before? Dated on this date from Boyd Jackson, where he's handing over Brian Clover's TA records. So, anyways, however, if Agent Balance denies having received these TA records, defendant may not explore the either in voir dire or before the jury, given the absolute lack of any factual basis supporting his position that the state is hiding them. Now, hold on. So then you go to 10. Mr. Ray's affidavit, which forms the basis of the defendant's challenge, is replete with speculation and unfounded. Okay, this is what's crazy to me. I think Hippler has a problem with reading. Boyd Jackson's name is in it, and he says that he found papers in the discovery that the state turned over with Boyd Jackson's name on it, and the only way that Boyd Jackson's name would be on these papers. I'm talking, when I say papers, guys, I'm talking about documents that were obviously relevant from AT&T supplying the feds with information. Okay. The only way that they would have Boyd Jackson and with anything to do with him is if the FBI, that's their relationship with Boyd Jackson. He handles that department. He handles that special relationship and supplying the feds with shit. Okay. So that's in his affidavit. So to sit here and say unfounded, like, are these papers not attached? Like, that's where I'm finding some confusion there. Like, when Cy Ray put in his affidavit, I know that they had exhibits. So this would be one of the exhibits, is Boyd Jackson's name on the papers, whatever they were. Okay. And that would be an exhibit. And Cy Ray is saying that this is who Boyd Jackson is. And Ann Taylor's over here saying, I am just asking for the opportunity to motherfucking question Nick Balance. That's all we need. We can't have a motion in limine denying me the opportunity to talk about these timing advance records because they exist, they have them, and they are fucking lying. And we are about to show and break open a can of whoop ass on everybody's fucking ass about this topic. But here, Hippler he has his mindset on the GLDC bullshit. And if you couldn't follow along with Cy Ray's affidavit, I'm sorry, then you are motherfucking illiterate. Like, fuck you, dude. You know exactly what that affidavit said. I can read it. Everybody can read it. If you didn't take the time to read it. But he lays it all the fuck out there that if Boyd Jackson's name is on something, that's that relationship, and that's what they're getting. And then on top of it, how did you map certain things that basically Balance didn't map those 7 minutes, but now all of a sudden they're mapped, and like basically his report is countered. If you read Cy Ray's shit, this is what you said over here in your report. Now this is what your report says over here. And now you have no opinions on the 7 minutes. And then Judge Hippler was like, well, then that just means he's not going to testify about the 7 minutes. What do you mean he's just not going to testify about 7 minutes? We're going to ask him about the fucking 7 minutes. We're going to ask him what is your opinion? Where is the phone, motherfucker? And why isn't that in your report? And who did you tell that the phone stopped reporting the network at 2:47 when it didn't? Where did you get that information from? Who did you tell that to? Because this guy, little Baldy, Payne, is relying on your bullshit, right? And you guys were co-located, and your ass is part of it now because Moscow Police Department put you as part of it, and then the goddamn judge put you as part of it because they said, okay, well then this is a group activity. And so and he already put an order that Nick Balance, when serving AT&T, that he had the search warrant, the affidavit for the search warrant. So once Hippler deemed that and got that all out, it's all now on the record. And so now Balance can't say, I didn't have the affidavit. I didn't know what was written in there. Had I known that, I would have never served it, because that's not anything that I said. This is what we're going to get into. Is the FBI, in terms of Nick Balance, are they going to back Moscow Police Department's bullshit in that affidavit? Or are they going to say, we had nothing to do with what was written up in that affidavit? Okay. They asked us shit. We supplied them with guidance and we gave them answers to stuff. And when they asked us about language, this is how we did this. This is how we did that. And so it's going to come out. So you didn't supply Payne, who has no knowledge of any of this, where he said he got everything from you. He would be lying? Yes, he would be lying. That's where this is headed. People are going to lose their jobs over this case. That's happening. Mark my words. People are going to lose their jobs over this. It's just a matter of which people. So, thus the state's motion is granted, except as qualified regarding the very brief voir dire outside the presence of the jury. So here it is. And this is where I'm like, okay, Ann Taylor seeing this, she now knows what she's got to do. And that's where we're going to see, I believe we're going to have a reconsideration. There's things that are going to happen here between now and then. A very brief voir dire outside the presence of the jury. Who is Judge Hippler to literally take, because he doesn't get it. Cyree wrote all this stuff down, right? And so Cyree's an expert, right? And everything that he wrote, he has information that backs it up. Why wouldn't a judge look and see all that? Like, okay, yeah, let's bring him in through Zoom. I want to hear from him. Click. Wouldn't you just do that? Anybody would have. Denying Brian Colbert that opportunity to have Cyree come in there, I don't think that was smart by Judge Hippler. And then to produce this, like, Brian Colbert has the right to due process, and you have a meaning. It's a meaningful opportunity to be heard in meaningful time. So better make this motherfucking meaningful. Otherwise, it's a violation of his due process. Next up, self-authenticating records in reliance. Okay. So the state represents that it will obtain and submit certificates, 60 exhibits, and they don't have them yet. These certificates. Okay. However, the state acknowledges that it contains a notice requirement that has not been satisfied. To this end, the court will require that after proper notice is given under, the parties are to meet and confer regarding the self-authentication and any objections the defendant may have. So again, extending this deadline in a sense that, hey, get your shit in, get these certificates in. And then once all these certificates are in, then the defendant can raise more objections, and then we'll deal with that then. I can't even, like, in a sense, this is a new deadline then for these fucking 60 exhibits. There's nothing, I mean, Judge Hippler and his fucking deadlines could suck a dick. State. Motion limiting admissibility of demonstrative exhibit. So this is the Dow House. So Judge Hippler says, that fucking Dow House, we're playing in that bitch. Okay? Bring your fucking dowels. Now, and he's saying that this has nothing to do with anything drawn to scale. It doesn't matter. This is what is going to be helpful to explain the testimony of presenting witnesses. The state contends the model will aid certain witnesses in describing their testimony. Now, I will tell you this, Ann Taylor needs to ask every single witness that testifies to this piece of material if they have seen it before. If they have not seen it before, it is automatic. There is no testimony coming from that witness. these witnesses would have had to seen this before they can testify with it. So, because if anything's going to aid in your testimony, you would have seen the exhibit prior to. So that question will be asked, no doubt. So can you imagine, hey, Dylan, can you come on in? We want to go over your testimony, and we have a house that, we're going to go through this. And so then Dylan is going to use, because listen, defendant objects, arguing that the state's drawing of the model and other related information was only recently disclosed in discovery in a file defendant describes as massive. Defendant claims that the data in the model cannot reasonably be evaluated by its expert in time. Defendant disputes that this model is relevant, and even if it was, I think he meant to say irrelevant, maybe. The defendant disputes that the model is relevant, and even if it was, claims it should be excluded under IRE403 due to the danger it might not be accurate. The trial court has discretion allowing, again, this will not go back with the jury. It is just simply to help witnesses, so assist them, and so that the jury can better understand the facts. The homicides occurred in 2 bedrooms within a 3-story home with a complicated layout. I'm sorry, I don't see anything complicated with this house. I can't believe that people are still talking that this is a complicated house, you guys. I just don't see it. You walk in the front door, there's 2 bedrooms on the first, right there when you walk in, there's a bathroom. I think there's even washer dryer. Then you go up the stairs and there's a living room, a kitchen, and 2 more bathrooms, and 2 more bedrooms with a bathroom. Then you go up the next flight of stairs and there's 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. And then you have a walkout from a kitchen, and one of the bedrooms has a balcony. The suspect's ability to enter the home, carrying out the stabbings, and exit the home consistent with DM's observations will be a central point of the trial. Who is he speaking? You guys understand that this was not any argument made by the motherfucking state. We watched this motion in limine for hours. This was never said by the state. They never said anything about, they never were specific and said about Dylan. Okay. Hippler adds the suspect's ability to enter the home, carrying out the stabbings, and exit the home consistent with DM's observations will be a central point of the trial, particularly given that defendant is challenging whether it could be accomplished by one person within the time frame alleged. What the fuck does the dollhouse have to do with this? None of these arguments were made by the state. None of them. The state didn't say any of this. This is where I fell off my fucking chair and I said, holy shit, dude, he is literally arguing their case for them. They didn't say any of this. And they sure as fuck didn't say that Dylan was going to testify to this. The model will aid the testimony of lay witnesses. And experts alike in explaining the locations of victims, witnesses, and other items of evidence, as well as nothing is going to be in there. And other items of evidence, as well as understanding the suspect's potential or likely path of travel. Again, all about Dylan. And then I hope that it comes out that there's no way that then Dylan could have seen Xana or thought that Xana was passed out or anything if she didn't go upstairs. And we would have heard somebody screaming, don't you think, and relaying, oh my God. Why would she ever think that Xana was just passed out drunk? Hippler is definitely an asset for the prosecution. I think it's going to be interesting when Jeff Kernoodle has to testify about the fact that his daughter wanted the locks changed a week prior to, and that the person that they wanted the locks changed, the reason they wanted that had nothing to do with Brian Kohlberger. So I'm interested to hear that testimony. Moreover, though it's not to sale, accuracy is not the standard governing relevant of, remember, this does not go back to the jurors. The other information was the identity and credentials of the person building the model and the data. Yeah, who is? Nobody's seen it. Wouldn't you maybe like make this recommendation or this order after you can see it? I would have reserved it and been like, okay, we'll get us your dollhouse, and then we'll bring this back up. Because what the defense was saying is that we don't want the jury to believe that anybody in this house had a view certain angles that they did not have. Okay. So just because something isn't drawn to scale, it still has to be accurate. Like if you want, obviously it's not going to be the real life size fucking house, but they supplied the pictures and the view, and Dylan, from where she said she was standing, couldn't have seen what she said she saw. Like, but Judge Hippler just says, here's how you can beat that. Ready? While the defendant's expert, Mr. Nodal, says he contends that there is a risk the state's model could be misleading if it misrepresents the location of a wall or door or an actual line of sight. Like, that's the most important thing. Those are all simply concerns at this point. Exactly. Because it's not ready yet. So we'd have to see this fucking piece of shit. The state intends to lay foundation to establish that the 3D model fairly depicts the residence fairly. Okay, well, produce it. Produce a fair. If it fails to do so, the model will not be allowed. Oh, there we go. There you go. So that's fair. Further, defendant is free to cross-examine the testifying witness. There's going to be a bunch of witnesses. The testifying witness. And to put on his own evidence, including experts. He may also use his own demonstrative exhibits if proper foundation is laid. However, the state is not going to be held to a standard of precision accuracy in this regard. It will only need to demonstrate accuracy to the point of avoiding deception. Defendant contends that allowing the model is prejudicial because it is built from data that was untimely disclosed and which its expert has little time to analyze for accuracy. But he's saying, don't worry, accuracy doesn't matter. While this might be a more compelling issue if the state was seeking to introduce the model as substantive evidence or seeking to have the model accompany the jury during deliberations, it is not. It is simply going to be used as an educational device meant to aid in the presentation of evidence and will not go back with the jury. Okay. Again, accuracy is not the standard here. It's not what we're talking about. So, alibi. Alibi. The state moves to preclude defendants from offering any evidence in support of an alibi. If requested by the state during discovery, a defendant intending to offer an alibi must file a notice listing the specific place or places at which the defendant claims to have been at the time of the alleged offense and the names and addresses of the witnesses upon who intend to rely this established alibi. The court has discretion, though, to exclude testimony of any undisclosed witnesses offered as defendant's absence from the scene of the offense. So here we get into, at this point, the defendant has only provided notice that he was out driving in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022. Throughout the area south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho, he intends to present testimony by his expert Cyray to partially corroborate his alibi using CSLI data from defendant's cell phone. However, the alleged offense occurred between approximately 4:07 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. Again, Hippler is tipping the hand of what's coming. All right. So at most, Mr. Ray can opine as to where defendant's cell phone was up and only up until 2:40 or 2:54 a.m. when it was apparently turned off. And I think it's apparently, see, I was saying apparently turned off. And approximately 4:48 a.m. when it began reporting the network. Defendant has provided no evidence as to his location at the time of the crime. And again, at the time of the crime is a fact that is heavily disputed by the defense. That's why they're, I believe, considering it a partial alibi, because if he's over here during this time period earlier, well, that's when we believe that the crimes actually occurred. So, and this is where our client was. In other words, he has provided no alibi evidence as contemplated by the rules. That said, the court will not categorically preclude defendant at this point from offering alibi evidence at trial. There are still 4 months until trial begins, so he's being fair in when he's saying about the 4 months thing, just like the 403B evidence, shit like that. So he's trying to be consistent. If defendant does unearth alibi evidence, it is his obligation to immediately make the state and the court aware of it. At that point, the court can apply Juarez standard. So, okay, prior traffic stop. Now, this is after Judge Hippler has taken the time to watch the videos that the defense turned over with this defendant's August 21st, 2022 traffic stop in Moscow, during which he stopped for speeding. And it was interesting because I thought that he was only cited for the seatbelt and issued a citation for failing to wear a seatbelt. So he would, during which he was stopped for speeding and issued a citation for failure to wear a seatbelt. Specifically, the state seeks to admit the officer's OBV footage of the traffic stop. That is officer body worn camera, by the way, as well as the citation. So where is the dash cam? Remember I was asking that? I was like, are they introducing the dash cam? But they're arguing that it's relevant to proving defendant's identity, vehicle, ownership, control, address, and phone number. Defendant objects, pointing to Idaho Supreme Court case and evidence of prior misconduct is relevant on the issue of identity when the evidence demonstrates sufficiently similar as well as distinctive characteristics. Blah blah blah. Oh, I want to speak on this this footer that I didn't go down and get. And this has to do with Cyray and the alibi. So this does not preclude defendant from presenting Mr. Ray's testimony at trial to rebut any contention by the state that the defendant's vehicle was seen on surveillance camera driving to Moscow around the same time Mr. Ray contends he was south of Pullman. However, defendant may not refer to it as an alibi or partial alibi prior to closing. So remember, the only arguments going to be going on in this case, they are saying, so he's going to, if somebody's on it with objections here during this trial, if you're on it and you're paying attention, you can object to a lot of things depending on the form of the question. So someone like Ashley Jennings, who struggles to formulate questions, I would be objecting to her and Santa like crazy. But that would also go for the defense if they're formulating questions. Like if you're on it, you can get objections and have them sustained based on the form, based on a lot of the rulings that I've seen so far. At that time, defendant is instructed to address the issue outside the presence of the jury for guidance on what language related to alibi or any sort may be used. Interesting. Our whereabouts, this is where I was. I don't know. So, this video though, I wanted to know what he watched it. Okay, so he determined, the court finds the evidence is relevant to establish defendant's identity and link him to the charged crimes. Okay, when I saw this in motherfucking writing, I'm like, this is exactly, in my opinion, what the defense is saying. That okay, they don't have a license plate. They don't have shit on this vehicle. All right. And it is just way more powerful when you put duty calls, April. Thank you so much. Happy Easter, Land and friends. Thank you. Nicole, 7 months. What will they present that isn't circumstantial? The sheath. How do I say this? If that vehicle had a license plate, in my opinion, then I think that this should be admissible. Okay. But because that vehicle is fucking looking like this shit. Okay. This is what's going to be in the jury's head. And then I would just think that they're going to have to point out all these fucking cars in that area. There's so many fucking Elantras over there. It'll be interesting. But so, and it link him to the charged crimes. Indeed, the citation and OBV footage up to the point the defendant provides his phone number served to identify defendant by name, physical appearance, phone number, and address. Just prior to defendant providing his phone number, he asked the officer why he needed it. This is after defendant provides his phone number. He and the officer discuss matter that in no way bear on defendant's identity. Thus, the portion of the OBV video or OBV shall be redacted. $18. Look at this. There is no dispute that the evidence is sufficiently established as fact. Thus, the court need not make a specific articulation on the matter. And they're saying that this is to determine the admissibility of evidence under Rule 404B, the court must find the evidence is sufficiently established as fact, okay, and relevant as a matter of law to material and disputed issue other than the character or criminal propensity. It must then conduct a Rule 403 analysis. So the court finds the evidence is relevant to establish the defendant's identity and link him to the charged crimes. The evidence also establishes defendant as the registered owner and driver of the vehicle, which you can do that so many other ways, the make and model of which was thought to be used by the killer. Further, the evidence places defendant in Moscow at night on one of the dates of interest alleged by the state to be relevant to planning the charged crime. All of these factors played a role in the investigation of the crime. Exactly. Ann Taylor, you better say you can use the probable cause affidavit, and that is it. We are not signing off on anything else. Upon weighing the IRE 403 factors, the only portion of the OBV footage the court finds troubling is when defendant inquires why the officer needs his phone number. This inquiry could be perceived by jurors to be insolent. Given its lack of relevance and potential for prejudice, the inquiry shall be redacted. Wow. Why do you need my phone number? That's interesting. Defendant's claims of unfair prejudice and jury confusion lack merit. I don't think it lacks merit at all. It's just your ruling. Just let's be honest. Like, first, he argues there is no nexus between the traffic stop and the charged crimes. There isn't. Thus, the jury may consider it as propensity evidence or otherwise be confused. However, as discussed, a nexus is not required for the purpose advanced by the state. That's because they're lying about that they need it for identity purposes. Moreover, unfair prejudice arises only when the evidence has an undue tendency to suggest a decision on an improper basis and appeals to the jurors' sympathies, arouses their sense of horror, provokes their instinct to punish, or otherwise cause a jury to base its decision on something other than the established propositions in this case. I think that this would do that. You know, whatever. I'm telling you guys, there's fucking nothing but White launchers all over that town. Defendant also contends it is unfairly prejudicial because the OBV footage provides a clear shot of defendant's vehicle. No, and that's not how they said it, dude. He is totally changing the words of how they worded this. It's not like, oh, it gives a clear shot of the vehicle. It's that none of these are a clear shot. Okay. You're going to confuse the jury to say that, oh, here in this clear shot, this is this. Even though I am still not sold on the fact that the departing vehicle, that this departing vehicle, we have no fucking clue what the departing vehicle is that's leaving at 4:20. I can't wait to see these exhibits. Exactly. Yeah, the state has no clear shot of a white sedan that night. None. And so to give them a clear shot of a vehicle, I think that's bullshit. And so if you're going to then be what? Do I think that a jury should consider seeing that car and that be the weighing factor of if they choose to convict Brian Kober or not? Like, I don't think that, I don't know. I think that somebody would have more if they saw versus just hearing the fact that he has this vehicle registered to him. Like, you're applying weight to that. You know? I don't think that any weight should be applied to that. He has that vehicle. It's like, period. It doesn't, showing the vehicle doesn't make it more or less true, right? Show the jury the stock photo. There you go. That's a good one. Like, his DMV registration says that he owns that. And that's why she said that it would be cumulative. And she's right. I don't know. So they're saying, so the defendant also contends it is unfairly prejudicial because the footage provides a clear shot of defense vehicle, which may lead the jury to believe it is the suspect vehicle captured on surveillance videos at and near the crime scene on November 13, 2022. However, This is precisely what makes the evidence probative. So listen, what they're going to have to do. How the fuck do we even know it's a white? How do we even know it's white, first of all? How do we even know it's that it's a Elantra? Okay. It links defendant to the crime scene. What? When it links defendant to the crime scene? What the fuck? You guys, there is no evidence that this fucking white car went into it. There's no evidence that it parked at the house. In fact, there is none. Okay, it didn't happen. But links it to the crime scene. What the fuck are you talking about? How do cars get linked to houses unless they pull in driveways and you see the person get out of the fucking car and go into the house? I would think that this vehicle links. I thought that this was just supposed to be for identity. Then this argument coming out of Hippler is like, wait, what? What is it? How would that link for you guys? I don't understand. He's now switching it and saying like that. I don't know, man. No, Lana, it's on eyebrow. The eyebrow goes into the effing house. Look at it. However, this is precisely what makes the evidence probative. It links defendant to the crime scene. I don't know how, okay, the motherfucking white Elantra, while this may be damaging to his defense, fuck being damaging, is it admissible is it admissible? Or is the defense arguing that this is a highly circumstantial case and you're going to this is going to mislead the jury to thinking that car is even a white Honda Elantra? So again, he says, while this may be damaging to the defense, it is not unfairly prejudicial when balanced against its strong relevance. And I was like, okay, what is strong relevance? See for it. Okay. Defendant also noted at the hearing that the traffic stop occurred. So he's like, the defendant also noted at the hearing that the traffic stop occurred on the same day that Agent Balance determined through CSLI analysis that the defendant's cell phone was using resources consistent with being in the area of 1122 King. So now, one last one, and then I'll be doing a part 2. But I want to show you guys that I'm going to go with the one I just was like, wow. Okay. Dude, Hippler has lost his ever-loving mind with this. Okay. You guys know, like, my favorite motion lemony was, I want to hear what Hippler has to say about this fucking make and model of this car, okay? So let me make this bigger and let me zoom in here on a very important. Okay. He states, in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, surveillance videos from various locations near the crime scene picked up footage of what law enforcement, now see what law enforcement, he does not say experts, he says law enforcement believed to be the same vehicle as suspect vehicle 1, the white sedan that was seen arriving at and then departing from the 1122 King Road at the time of the homicides. From one such video, law enforcement determined the vehicle was a 2011-2016 Honda Elantra. Defendant seeks an order precluding the state from referring to the vehicles depicted on the various surveillance videos as the same vehicle. Okay. Period. I.e. suspect vehicle 1. Okay. And from asserting that suspect vehicle 1 is a 2014-2016 Honda, where I don't recall that portion of it. Okay. This was just all about the make and model of this vehicle. This was all about the expert testifying that suspect vehicle 1, that he ever dubbed these as suspect vehicle 1, the expert. Okay. Here's how Hippler sees it. Not how I see it. Not how I see it at all. The defense argues that these are speculative conclusions that invade the province of the jury. The state responds that it intends to elicit expert testimony establishing the vehicles are the same. Do you understand that this is in no motherfucking expert report? So I'm asking this question. Immel did the fucking, here, I'm sending you these videos. I went through this like step by step. We sent you these on these different days. He just, on those days, what do you got for me? No fucking report says that the videos that we all looked at is the same fucking vehicle. It is not in his report. Okay. Nor did the state say, or if they did, if Ashley Jennings made this ridiculous statement, that we're going to fucking get Immel to say this. Well, Immel's not going to say it. I can promise you that. Because it's not in his report at all. So here, the state responds that it intends to elicit expert testimony establishing the vehicles are the same, and such testimony will be neither speculative nor otherwise improper. Now, Hippler then basically tells the state how to accomplish this. And I can't even fucking believe this. So I would like to tell you guys that who the first person that will be called to the stand to testify in regards to how this case literally kicked off is going to be whoever collected the videos. They're going to have to talk about collection of these videos, right? It's right here. It's going to be Immel because of Hippler. Hippler is saying then, oral argument on the motion was held, blah, 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 after which the court took the matter under advisement. The court finds that the state may present expert opinion that the vehicles depicted in the videos are the same as suspect vehicle 1, as well as the make and model thereof. Now, so the court finds that the state may present expert opinion. What are you fucking talking about? Absolutely, they may do this. These reports were already due. These expert disclosures were already due, and no one has said this. So what are you talking about? Immel never said this in any of his reports. He's not going to say it. So it's like Hippler is over here telling the fucking state, get your fucking experts to say that this is the same vehicle, and I'm going to allow it. But wait a second. We have the reports, and that's just not what they say. Okay? So then there's more. Then there's more fucking craziness. Then he writes the word facts. Facts, bitches. Following the homicides, facts. Very important. Red. Following the homicides, law enforcement gathered video surveillance from various locations surrounding the crime scene, including from 1112 King Road, a residence immediately to the northwest of the crime scene. That video footage showed a white sedan, suspect vehicle 1, enter the King Road neighborhood at 4:04 a.m. and then depart from the area at a high rate of speed at 4:20. And I'm over here saying, you cannot tell what car is departing. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. You're all lying, And the jury's going to be like, I don't even see a car. The same footage showed what law enforcement believed to be the same vehicle make 3 initial passes by the crime scene in the 30 minutes before its 4:04 a.m. entry. Surveillance videos from 5 other locations within a 0.6 miles of the crime scene also captured what law enforcement believed to be suspect vehicle 1 in the hour preceding the crime. Yes, it's very important, but he wants to put a footnote here. Ready? 1. Agent Rob Hill's surveillance report. What? Okay, here we go. These little headlights. All right. Based on the direction of travel and timestamps from these videos, investigators mapped what they believe to be suspect vehicle 1's route of travel. What the fuck? This is not about the path of travel. This is fucking crazy. Okay, this is absolutely crazy. This is not what the fucking motion was about at all, guys. I'm sorry, but Ashley Jennings, this is about, we don't want, Special Agent Immel never used the language suspect vehicle 1 in any of his reports. He is the only person to opine and be handed these videos to then opine on the question vehicle. And he never compared the videos against each other on these different days and these different, oh, hey, we got these on these ones now, compare them. And yep, all of these can combine. It's the same vehicle. And this is my, here it is. That never happened. Okay. So I'm like, what the fuck? So here's Hippler following fucking Ashley Jennings down the road, like skip to Lou, my darling, in her little pigtails. You just see Ashley Jennings just skipping around with pigtails, and then fucking Hippler just skipping along like, okay, Ashley, just take us on this path. So 2, they're using these maps. You guys, these maps were not path of travel necessarily. These maps were to show how far these fucking cameras were from the crime scene. I knew you would like that comment. Skip to Lou, my darling. Okay, Ashley, let's go. Next up. One of the surveillance videos one of the surveillance videos relied upon by law enforcement was from a camera located at 1125 Ridge Road. Video footage captured at 4:01 a.m. from this camera provided a clear view of the whites. A clear view. Are these you? Who? They have no idea what clear is. Motherfucker shit ain't clear. But that's fine. Of the white sedan depicted therein, which law enforcement believed shared similar class characteristics to a 2014-2016 Hyundai Elantra. And then where he's citing this is from Agent Anthony Immel's report. Well, I cannot wait for you to really actually see what is going on with that. While there is no continuous footage showing the vehicle identified in the Ridge Road footage traveling to the crime scene, the Ridge Road camera was located 0.3 miles down the road from the crime scene. From this collective evidence, investigators believed the vehicle seen on the Ridge Road footage at 4:01 a.m. was suspect vehicle 1, captured on 1112 King Road at 4:04. And you guys, this is absolutely absurd. I've done it now like 4 other times recently. Analysis. Based on the lack of continuous footage showing the vehicle captured in the various surveillance videos traveling to the crime scene at 4:04, defendant argues it would be improper for the state to identify those vehicles as suspect vehicle 1 or otherwise identify suspect vehicle 1 as a 2014-2016 Hyundai Elantra. He argues any such testimony is speculative and therefore not relevant, unfairly prejudicial, and invades the province of the jury. The state responds that the testimony is based on logic, educated inferences drawn by law enforcement from the surveillance videos. Like, duh, like this is just logic, man. Get fucked. It adds that the testimony does not invade the province of the jury and is highly relevant to determine whether the vehicle captured at 4:04 a.m. on 1112 King Road camera was defendant's vehicle. What do you mean defendant's vehicle? What the fuck are you? What? To the extent defendant is attempting to prohibit the state from arguing or asserting as fact that the vehicles are the same, or that suspect vehicle 1 is a 2014-2016 Hyundai Elantra, he is correct that it would be speculative and improper. Look at this. Without expert testimony to provide a basis to make this contention. Right here, showing that sentence right there says, I am going to do your job for you, Ashley Jennings. Because it is right. The defendant is right that these investigators, that would be speculative. But if the expert testifies first and he comes out and he says, off of his expert opinion based off of all of this shit, right? How Judge Hippler thinks this is going to go, but I don't know why he thinks that. He's just basically saying he wants Immel to lie now. But if Immel testifies first, all is fine. However, this prescription does not prevent the state from eliciting such opinions from law enforcement and asserting this as an allegation during the trial based on that testimony. An opinion is speculative when it theorizes about a matter as to which evidence is not sufficient for certain knowledge and suggests only possibilities. Here, law enforcement's opinion that the vehicle captured on the Ridge Road camera at 4:01 a.m. is suspect vehicle 1 captured at 4:04 on 1112 King Road footage is not based on unsupported theories or possibilities. Rather, the opinion is based on the investigator's training and experience and educated inferences drawn from their review of surveillance footage from 6 locations within a mile of the crime scene during the hours preceding the crime. From this evidence, the investigators were able to map what they believed was suspect vehicle's one route of travel preceding the crime, as well as identify its make and model. Defendant ignores this collection of evidence and focuses instead on solely 2 points of references. You guys, that cannot be the fucking car. I promise you. It's going the wrong way based on the evidence. Based on Linda Lane doesn't have it. Why doesn't Linda Lane have footage? Then you're speculating that headlights that you cannot tell anything about are now this car because it had to have turned around somewhere back in Walenta to then come and it's the car. You guys wait till he thinks. Hippler thinks that fucking King Road, that Ridge Road runs into King. Wait for this. Wait till he fucking writes this right here. I said, he doesn't even know the area. He says, King Road. Defendant ignores his collection of evidence. However, the investigators had multiple data points from which they could reasonably infer that the vehicle seen on Ridge Road at 4:01 a.m. was the same that had been driving throughout the area in the preceding hour. I mean, there's all these other cars, including the 3 passes by the crime scene. Further, based on the direction of travel of the Ridge Road vehicle and its distance from and location respective to 112 King Road, it is likewise reasonable to infer, notwithstanding the lack of continuous footage, that it continued to travel along Ridge Road until it reached King Road. How the fuck did it do that? I mean, you guys right here, he says that traveling along Ridge Road until it reached King Road. Do you understand that is not even possible? Do you understand that Ridge Road does not dead end into motherfucking King? This is absolutely unfucking believable. This is exactly my presentation on Google Maps to show that no. How about these data points that you're talking about, these cameras that always pick up this car? Why didn't 4451 Paradise pick it up? Why didn't 1125 Ridge Road pick it up this way? What the fuck are you talking about? Why didn't Linda Lane catch it? Like how it caught it this way. You guys, Ridge Road does not reach King Road motherfucking ever. Never, ever. In fact, where does the word Taylor come in? In order to get to King Road, you gotta come from good old Titty Taylor. How's that happening? And then he is totally not considering the fact, this is not the fact that Ridge Road has a median that's in the middle that you will fuck the shit out of your car if you think you're just going to fucking pull some U's in the middle of Ridge. And right over there at Taylor, if you're coming from, and I'm going to go into a big deep dive with this tomorrow with the Linda Lane shit, because this is absurd. This is absurd. Linda Lane is supposed to be running continuous footage, and it's missing from 3:30 until 4:06. Why? Because there's no headlights. You would need Taylor. You would need, in order for the car to be the 401 on Ridge, it would have had to leave at 358, go out left, then somewhere make a U-ey to come back down, be on then Taylor to be the 401. It's that simple. But this is why you're going to have to take the damn jury out there. Because this is everything. You guys, I'm telling you, the 358 car is not the 401 car. It's impossible. Or you're going to have to explain to the jury, and the jury, why wouldn't they believe this, that, oh, somehow these cameras that normally have been catching everything just didn't this time around. It's absolutely absurd. And this judge putting down his facts that it is likewise reasonable to infer, notwithstanding the lack of continuous footage, that the car continued traveling along Ridge Road until it reached King Road. Well, you're a fucking moron, because that's impossible. Because Ridge Road doesn't dead end into fucking King. And Ridge Road doesn't connect in any type of way to, like, you'd either have to be coming off Walenta to then make a right onto Taylor to then make a right into the King, or you're on Taylor coming from Ridge the opposite way. And it's just absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. This is absolutely fucking horseshit. This isn't even fucking physically possible. So take that and smoke it. Yeah, Ridge becomes Walenta though, but he doesn't seem to know that. And he doesn't seem to know that fucking Taylor is needed either. He doesn't seem to know any of this shit. I mean, the big street that I think he's missing here is Taylor is needed. I mean, without Taylor, what they're even saying happened between 358 and 401 is not, you need Taylor to even pull that off. But then you have to ask yourself, why was Linda Lane deleted? Where is the Linda Lane footage from 3:30 until 4:06 with the dumpsters? And it's like, wow, man. I just couldn't, when I read this, I was like, this is wild as fuck. Such opinion testimony would not usurp the jury's role as fact finder. The jury is tasked with determining whether defendant committed. So then now the defendant has to waste time to show to the jury, right, that there is no way in hell that this is the same vehicle. We are not telling you that the vehicle is not there. Clearly it is there. Okay. But we're going to show you that the only way for that to be the same vehicle is if these times aren't right. Because it's impossible to make it over there in that amount of time. Also, how does Linda Lane not pick it up? There's so many factors. And remember, it's the way that it's traveling. It's more consistent with it coming from across the street over there by and from the fraternities. But such opinion. Okay, so the state asserts that the perpetrator drove suspect vehicle 1, and based on the totality of evidence, what totality? What does that even have anything to do with? We're talking about, dude, Immel did not watch any path of travel, you guys. Immel is not going to get up on the stand and say that I connected any of these cars or that any of these cars are the same. These were all, quote unquote, the question vehicle, whatever day they sent me the shit to look at it, and then I gave them a response. I never compared any of the days to the other days, as my report indicates. And this is why Ann Taylor wanted to say that Immel is stuck with his February of 2023 report. Right, Hippler? So on the totality that it was defendant's Hyundai Elantra. The investigators' observations and inferences about the route of travel of the vehicle, its make and model. Who do you think the only people that have opined on this path of travel, I'm telling you, is the fucking MPD. Hill was just writing down the different timestamps of when he saw things. I mean, do you understand if they were trying to talk about the traffic flow? If Hill's going to get up on the stand and say, "Oh, I didn't record any of the other traffic flow. I was just recording when we believe that this vehicle was moving." Do you know how absolutely absurd that's going to be on the stand? Because then Ann Taylor, because she has the same footage, she's then going to have her dude or girl, or who the fuck it is going to sit there and show all these people walking, coming and going on different cameras, walking, all these other cars. Okay. It would be like in the Moore Drake case that you're only showing, like, we have to back it up a little bit to show how Eldora Gatchell's vehicle left before a white vehicle was parked a truck. And so how would Eldora Gatchell ever say that a white vehicle that was a truck was blocking her way of leaving, but yet no white truck was ever there, but it comes there a minute after her vehicle leaves? How would she ever know that if she left in the vehicle that she says that she left in, which she didn't? That's how she knows that. Which means that she's at the crime scene still. Bottom line, this is absurd. This is absurd. I mean, this jury is going to get two totally different cases basically presented to them. Is this more likely or is that more likely? And even if you can consider our version of events, that's a reasonable doubt. And you can't convict this man. And we don't know what happened here because the police department didn't do their job. They needed to fit everything into this narrative that came from the devices of the surviving roommates. But I can't believe that the jury is free to weigh this evidence and the investigator's testimony against that offered by the defendant. Wait, but the defendant doesn't have to. You know how Mass has been talking about like shifting the burden? By you allowing all of this shit, we have no choice but to put on, like, we got to put on the shit that we're going to have to put on. Like, first of all, we're going to cross-examine the fuck out of your people, right? But we have to go back to the beginning here. None of this is going to even go down because Immel is not going to get up there and say that any of this shit. Because his report doesn't say any of this shit. I think that this judge is literally going to be I mean, I think he truly thinks that the FBI and the Moscow Police Department worked like this on everything and that this is all kosher between these agencies. And I just don't think that that's what's going to happen at this trial. That's my opinion. My opinion is that, yeah, that's where I'll leave that. Yes, Fitzy. This judge misses being a lawyer, right? He is literally arguing the state's case and then giving them roadmaps on how to do it and how to present it. And this is how you're going to be able to get this in. I haven't seen that on one, I don't even know what to say. When I saw that he thought that Ridge and fucking King collide, I said, it makes sense now. This motherfucker doesn't have a clue of that area. And he is just literally, whatever the state is saying, he is buying 5 tickets to go see Front Row. You know, he's all in. But we have lots more to talk about. But we're going to talk about that tomorrow. So, again, welcome everybody back. Hopefully everybody, you know, I think the state has high hurdles here, no doubt about it. I think that every defendant should have a fair opportunity. I feel like Hippler's biased. If you don't see it, I mean, it's very obvious. And he's making arguments that fucking the state never even made. He's making arguments that were never presented. I've read the briefs. The only things that have been sealed were the documents as far as the exhibits that went with. But we saw all their shit. We saw the oral arguments. Wild. Juries should absolutely drive these routes. They need to drive these routes. Can you imagine you tell people in Boise that, hey, we have to go down to Moscow, Idaho? Because you guys, I mean, think about it. I think they're going to have to go down there for a day, right? They're going to have to, I mean, maybe they're going to be down there for like 2 days, maybe just a day. I mean, that kind of sucks. Like, you know how far of a drive that is? But they're going to have to. There is no way you cannot see that area. You have to see that area. I wonder if one of the days, I wonder if it has ever happened like that. Can they just use the Latah County courthouse for a week and handle whatever they need to handle in that area for like a week? You guys, it's just that little funky area around Ridge there and how it connects with Taylor. You can only be. Are they going to be like, well, we could just, if he allows this Dow house and doesn't allow, if Ann Taylor wants to be like, we want the jury based off of this shit, you have to tell the jury it has to go down there. I don't know. I'd be doing some test runs. Give them all Borgs. Oh, shit. Are pumpkins white? That footage proves they are. Love it. All right, guys. You guys rock. What else? 3D. I mean, right? They could take the jury to mad. I don't know. Hippler believes that Brian Kober is guilty. Let's just put it to you that way. Like, hey, his DNA is on that knife sheath. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, but nothing else. And that's when it's just like, that's what Ann Taylor was trying to say. Is like one of these things is not like the other. Like one of these things doesn't belong. There should just be a lot more evidence. And now what we're trying to do is fit in a bunch of circumstantial stuff to make this case that's not there. And then they had to lie about the phone turning off and when it really did turn off and which way it was headed and things like that. And they're going to have to allow some of the stuff that they lied about in so they can show how they lied about it. I think that's going to be a really interesting strategy point for the defense, because they're going to have to show the jury that the people that did this aren't trustworthy. Okay. And that I believe that the Linda Lane footage was cut. If the Linda Lane footage is cut and it's truly not there, and it's like how we got it, then I believe 100% that footage was cut. That footage was there at one point and then it was deleted. That's the most important time. How's that gone? Unless we got the version that here, take that out because that's what we're using in court. But once I saw Hill's report's missing that time frame. So I believe that they don't have that time frame on Linda Lane. And I think it's because the headlights aren't there and they would need them. And Ashley Jennings knew that they needed them to make her fucking bullshit work. Because Linda Lane would have the headlights coming back on Taylor to then go down and be the Ridge Road car at 401. And I don't think that they're there. Because if they were there, we would have the footage because they would all go hand in hand. So, anyways, you guys rock. Thank you so much, moderators. I'm going to go rest up my voice. I screamed a little bit at the Messi game, which was awesome, by the way. He's little. He's good, but he's little. So any kids out there that want to play soccer and you're little, Messi can do it. You can do it. Height, only a number. Again, thank you guys for the super stickers, super chats. And thank you to, like I said, MAGA. I think it was, where is New Orleans lady in here? Let me see. She bought like 80 some memberships. Someone's like, and Sarah needs to call a meeting. Meg Monica, there she is. Yep. There she is. There she's like, you called and I answered. No, I just wanted to thank you. Thank you. That you gifted over 100 memberships. Thank you so much. And so I saw like so many people that are avid watchers like got one on Friday because I went through it. So I just want to say thank you so much. That was so kind. I just know a ton of people that watch a lot got a membership. So thank our girl, Maga Monica. Speaking of the name Monica, did you guys see the Monica Cimatelli case? You guys, I'm going to show clips of that with Cyrated. I'm going to just give you guys a little titty taste of what Cyray is about to do in this case. People's pattern of behaviors with their cell phones is coming into play in this case, I personally believe. And I think he's going to be able to show that Brian Kober's phone was never in the same like areas or with the girls, the surviving roommates or anything like that. And that if you look at other people in this case and what their phones are doing over like leading up into the murders, because they go back like, you can go back like 6 months, you can go back like 3 months, 2 months. But I was reading the whole, like what a good expert would do. And you have to have at least 2 months worth up before a murder. And then you could really pattern somebody out. But all right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the flip side. We're here tomorrow morning talking about Karen Reed. Tomorrow night, I got Brian Colbert because I got more of this motherfucking motion in limine bullshit. Judge Hippler literally arguing for the state. Damn. It's like when you got the refs. So, peace out.